Start great. From the moment you start at a high standard. We have this tendency of telling ourselves that no, it's because I'm just starting. So it does not matter really. When I get a ring light, then I'll be able to. When I get a microphone, then I'll be able to. When I improve to iPhone 14, then I'll be able to. No, with the resources that you have, start excellent.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Teely.
And I'm Dami.
And this is the Lucrative Africa podcast.
This podcast features flourishing African creatives who share a vision to keep artists and creators across the continent informed about how to tap into the lucrative potential of their work.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope the podcast leaves you feeling informed, refreshed, and ready to make the most out of your creative talent. Let's get right into it.
Welcome to another episode of the Lucrative Africa podcast, and it's Dami again, and I'll also be your host for today's episode. And today with me here, I have someone very special. Her name is Elma Akob, or Akob. I hope I pronounced that right. That's right. And normally, I usually let the guests to do their introduction by themselves, but this introduction is very sweet, so I want to do a little. I'll do part of it, and then she's going to do the rest of it. So, yes, Elma is a 3-time graduate with a master's in strategic business management, and she's currently pursuing a PhD in corporate sustainability at 24 years old. Repeat, at 24 years old. She's an award-winning global speaker, an MC, a TEDx speaker with over 300k views on her talk titled The Dangers of Western Feminism, and a voiceover artist for Disney, Netflix, DSTV. I hope you're hearing the names of all those companies. Disney, Netflix, DSTV, and 100 plus other companies. But yes, there is more, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Elma to do the rest of the introduction. So Elma, can you tell us a bit more about yourself, who you are, what you do, and all the other things that I've not mentioned yet?
So I have mentioned all. You have mentioned everything about me. Hi, everyone. Hi, Dami. Thank you so much for having me on this episode. It's so great to be here, guys. When Dami will introduce his own self one day, people will really hear who is interviewing me, but let's not get into that.
Amen.
This is, who am I? You've said it all. You really have. You've said the most important parts. I am Cameroonian born, so West African by nature. Is in my blood, but I've grown up in South Africa, so that is where my accent probably comes from. You'll hear those of us who have studied outside or from West Africa will know how to tap into West African voice, and then at the same time, we know how to speak in our interview voice. And so you hear me go back and forth today, but that's who I am, essentially. Dami, you really said it all, hey? I'm the founder and CEO of Elevate Africa Academy, a company that prides itself in passing on the skill of public speaking to Africans. That's all.
See, there was that one. You say I've said it, or I did not say that one. So, and that was on purpose. But yeah, thank you for for introducing yourself. So I think now I'll just want our audience to know more about So what inspires you to do what you do as a voiceover artist, a creative entrepreneur? And, was there any starting point to all of this? Was there something that kicked off everything at some point in your life? Or, where did all of this start? And, where did the story begin?
Yeah. It was back in 1999 when I was born. So it started back then when I was a child. I was told that I was very talkative, even using baby language. I'm the one that you put in the middle of the dining room when you are still cooking and guests have arrived and you need entertainment. That was me. So whenever people ask me this, they're like, did you learn it or were you born with it? It's a combination of both. So I was born speaking. That one, there was nothing I could do about it. And since then, I grew up and people kept telling me, you have such a nice voice. And I thought, this shit in that shop, people are saying that I have a nice voice. Can I make money from having a nice voice. Don't just compliment me. Can I make money from this skill? And so I started doing some research into the voiceover industry as well as the public speaking industry and found out that yes, I can make money from having a nice voice. And that's how I was able to train myself and, like you said, record for the companies that you've mentioned. But really, what motivates me is the fact that an African child can do it. The fact that a girl born with I don't have any political family members. I don't know anyone in government or anything, but to think that an African child born from Cameroon living in South Africa can sit in her one bedroom flat and record for Disney in itself is something that I couldn't even, I couldn't think, I didn't think it was possible. And so what motivates me is the fact that in me doing it, others can see that it's possible and they can also start doing it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, even me, I'm also right now. I'm inspired. I feel like I can be a voiceover artist, but I don't really feel that. But
You can.
I don't.
I believe in you.
But yeah, okay. So Elma was inspired to become what she is today from the moment she was born. So, but yeah, I think this is just a sign that sometimes some of the comments you might get when you are young, it might actually mean something good for you in the future. When someone says you're talkative, who knows what being talkative could lead into? You could become a voiceover artist too. So, when someone tells you something, pick it and go and sit down and scrutinize it and see how can I make money from this thing that they have told me about. So yeah, at least that's what I'm
So
picking
good,
here.
Dami. No, definitely. I mean, think about the number of comedians that we have currently rotating around the African continent, living lives that we never thought comedians could live. And they were told in class, you're such a comedian. You don't focus on your books, you're such a comedian. And see what they're doing with it. When we look at the Guinness record breaker, the chef, oh, her name has just left my mind. Oh, yeah, Niger girl.
Hilda Bassi.
Hilda. Hilda was probably someone who was told at a young age, you know how to cook. There's people who are being told, you know how to bake. There's people who are being told, see, when you make clothes, there's nobody else that can do it like you, or hairstyles. There's an opportunity to, like you said, take what people have been saying about you, or even a skill that you have, and don't minimize it. Who knew that you could make money from talking? From making people laugh? We are living in a generation where new jobs are being created even before we have reached adulthood. So don't play your skills down. Don't think engineer, accountant, don't lose your passion, your God-given passion, if I can say. Okay, sorry, sir, continue. I'll talk.
No worries. I mean, I'm just remembering something from there's this book I once read, and yeah, when I say there's this book I once read, it's not like I'm someone who reads books all the time. It's just one of the
I
books
was
I've
about
read
to
in my
say,
lifetime.
oh, okay, all right, he's a reader.
But yeah, there's this book I once read. It's called How to Find and Follow Your Passion. The author is called her name is El Luna. But yeah, I recall that one of the tips that she mentioned in the book about how to, like, people who are trying to figure out what they want to do in their lives, or like what path they want to go on. One of the things you should do is like sit down and think of what people used to say about you when you were younger, and also things that you just used to do when you were young, even unconsciously. You can try to ask people around you to say what was that thing that you used to do very well, and there's usually a sign of what you would like doing today from back then. So yeah, it just reminded me of that as well. And to be fair, even for me, it's also a personal experience. Where I am today, it's also because of comments that I had when I was in high school. I used to like to decorate the words on like my notebooks, sometimes to the annoyance of my teachers, because yeah, we're supposed to just be writing your notes very legibly to read and get it marked. But I
Yeah,
kept
they're making
decorating
drawings.
things. Exactly. And then I also have some of my friends just ask me to, help them like write their names on their notebooks and things like that. I don't know if you had
Mm.
that experience where you
Yes,
buy a
yes. There
textbook
was
and you have
always
to
that
wrap the
person.
textbook.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. No, you're
yeah,
right.
and then that's how I, found myself going into this whole lettering and design space just because people mentioned that and they told me this thing you are doing, you know how to do it well. Go and figure out what it is and try to, expand on that. And yeah. So yeah, definitely I agree with that. So if you're creative listening, just, look back or ask people around you what they've noticed about you, and you never know what you might find from there. So yeah. Okay. So now, you've mentioned how, or I think I have mentioned how you are a three degree holder and currently pursuing a PhD. So, I'm curious, how does that, because most of the time there's this narrative, or should I say stereotype, when you think about the creative person,
Creatives.
they're usually people who creatives. They're usually people who are kind of forced into education, or they usually just don't like what they are doing. They don't want to be
They
in
don't
school. They
like
just want to
book.
be out there. Exactly. They just want to be out there, um, drawing, singing, doing whatever else they love to do, their creative passions. But then we see you who does that, but you're also pursuing education. And for someone who holds 3 degrees, then this is definitely like very intentional. No one is forcing you, or we believe that no one is forcing you to go on that path. So what inspires you to pursue all of these degrees, and how does the knowledge you've gained feed into your creative work as well?
Great question, Dami. I remember, look, I'm West African. And as a West African, we know that education is not a conversation that you have. It's not a what if. No, no, no. It's what you do, right? And so I remember when I told my dad that I wanted to do this voiceover thing, and his biggest fear was, isn't that going to take time away from your studies? Literally, he said, isn't that going to, because he could, of course, he'll see potential. And normally the mindset is, if I go into voiceover and I really blow up, I'll see no need for this education thing because I'm already making it here. Why am I going to carry on? But I put his fears to ease because, like you said, I'm also a passionate academic, and I'm an academic for 3 reasons. I'm a Black young African woman. It's 4 reasons. Black young African woman. Black young African woman, which means I am unfortunately and statistically seen as the least educated and the least qualified when it comes to job applications, be it locally within the continent or externally outside of the continent. And I'm very aware of that. And I think a lot of the times we know that there are boundaries, I call them boundaries to discrimination. We know that they exist, but sometimes we try to ignore them. They exist. It's not that there's nothing we can do about it. We're obviously trying to push forward and change the narrative. But the truth is, they currently exist. Now, knowing that they exist, how can I counter those barriers? How can I overcome those barriers? By making sure that I am the most qualified Black young female African woman in any room, right? And so if that means that I need to be called Dr. Akob, I'll be called Dr. Akob because I know that that's the highest form of education, and no one questions you after they see a doctor in front of your name. No one says, because like you said, for my business, I train voiceover artists and public speakers. We're a company. And every time we go out to funding, the first thing people want to say is, oh, you're a youth business, you're a startup, you are a business. And I'm like, no, we are a business. We deserve as much respect as any other business does. And if we are coming and we are in and we're applying for a 1 million funding, you shouldn't look at me and go, giving 1 million to a 24-year-old. Yeah, you should look at me as a successful businesswoman. And so me being able to put that doctor in front of my name is so that people can take me seriously. People know that I'm qualified and they believe what I'm saying without asking about my age and without asking about anything else that I come with. So the education goes hand in hand with my creativity. In fact, the education is to help my creativity go further, so that people can see it as more than just a hobby, but they can see it as an actual business that has strategic mindset behind it, that has time that has been invested into it. It also helps that I come from a family of academics. There's 5 of us in my family. My dad is a vice chancellor. He has PhD. Mother, she has PhD. Sister 1, she has PhD. Sister 2, she has PhD. I'm the last one out of 5 kids that doesn't have a PhD. And they're young. My sisters are 30 and below, they're 28 and 30. Young girls who also got their PhDs at 26 and 27. So the standard of excellence, I cannot take away from the fact that that was instilled by my parents. And it's something that I bought into. Nobody's forcing me to do it if I do not want to. Am I not in a different country? Just like you, Dami. Are you not in a different country? If we do not want to do this, will we not find a way out
Exactly.
of it? So yeah.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, yes, I agree. I agree to that last part. And of course to everything else that you've said. I think, yeah, that's really inspiring. I mean, even for me, who is not, I don't know, I'll say maybe I'm a guy. Even for me, it's inspiring for me to think about pursuing another degree because, as I said, now I just have one. But I think I plan to pursue a second one, but a third one, I don't know. It's God that me and God will have a discussion, and then
But once you
we'll
start, you
see
cannot
if
stop.
we'll see. I mean, some people have stopped at number two, so you never know. But yeah, if it's if
Yeah,
it's something that you start and you really like, which I feel like you do, and you're determined to go through with it, then you would. And yeah, so I won't know until I do the second one. Then I'll see if I want to do a third one again. So
no problem.
yeah.
I'll wait for you.
Well, don't wait for me. We'll get to your a fourth one or something. Well, yeah,
Mm.
that's really inspiring, and thanks for sharing that. So again, now still in line with pursuing all those degrees, but then also I assume that you also take voiceover gigs separately from
Mhm,
your business. Your business is more focused on just teaching how
mhm.
how to use your voice. So now we are saying that you have three separate things. So you are doing your academic work, you're in
Yeah.
school, doing research, doing all of that. You have a business you're running, which is its own thing, and
Mhm.
you also MC. You're not just doing voiceovers. You also
Guy.
MC. You go for events. So this already is already sounding like a lot. So I'm really
A lot.
curious to know how you balance all of these things together, because there has to be some super time management, Pomodoro, something, something that you have invented for yourself that works. I would like to borrow that too. So please let
Tell me
us spill the secret.
every time I get this question, I want to hide because the truth, and here I am, I'm a truthful, honest person. My time management skills are atrocious. They are terrible. Don't do what I do. In fact, I'm only starting to get better now because, like you said, I've got a lot on my plate and I keep adding it because I'm an overachiever. If you come to me and you ask me that, Elma, I need you to do this, I'll say yes. Tomorrow, somebody else, I will say yes. And then, something, when you do that, you end up sacrificing something. So at times I've sacrificed my friendships. The time that I spend with my friends, it's so sad because my friends, they have to enter my calendar too. It's not just like they can come and say, guys, this weekend we're having brunch, because they know Elma is always the one saying, Ish, this weekend, I'm sorry, I'm hosting this event. I'm sorry, I'm recording. I'm sorry, my thesis is due. So when you don't manage your time, you end up sacrificing on not just one thing, on everything, because you're not able to give 100% six times. So you end up giving 60% for each thing, instead of really prioritizing your tasks. And so I was telling you, Dami, before we started, I recently got a PA to help me and manage my life, because it's also important for one to notice their strengths and their weaknesses, and to notice your capabilities, and to recognize when you need help. And I recognize that I need help, because it's actually quite a lot of things that I'm doing. And so for those who are working out there, who are also trying to manage many different things, everyone's journey is different. A lot of the advice that you would get is people would tell you, focus on one thing, you're doing too much, cut down on this. But if you have a strategy in mind, like, I know where I'm going, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, and I know that I have to do these many things to get to where I'm going. And so it's going to mean I'm sacrificing something right now, but I know where I'm going in the future. So yeah, that's it. That I'm, like I said, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. PhD has come and changed my life. I thought I had everything in order until PhD came, but it speaks to the African child, Dami. I think right from a young age, we are raised to be multifaceted, and we're raised to do many different things at once. It's very rare that you will see an African child who is just doing one thing and one thing only. No, even from our parents, you're going to school, but you're still going to sell in the market. You're going to school, but on the side, you are still doing, part-time tutoring, this. Something along the lines. We don't know how to do one thing at a time. So it's in our DNA, Sha.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's like, you know how what do you call it? You know how when there's this argument of like if you should specialize in something or you should do you should be a generalist, and I think that also applies in that space. But then I feel like that's just a general, it could be a general problem for creatives. People just, once you learn this skill, or you know that you can do this, you can do this, you can do that, it's very hard for you to just want to do one thing and put the others aside and all of that. So, like, I feel like I know where you stand on the argument, but I'm still going to ask you, where do you stand on that argument?
Yeah.
Niching down versus generalizing, being a specialist or being a
Great question.
generalist.
So I'm going to be democratic in my take and say it needs a bit of both. So let me use myself as an example. Then I'm going to use Hilda Bassi as an example, just because I don't know, she's on my mind today. I don't even know me how. Let people not say that we're friends or something. I don't know if she doesn't know me, but I'm just saying her story is interesting. My niche is speaking. And my question to myself is, how many different things can I do with speaking? Now, some people will tell you voiceover and that's it, they're finished. They're doing Disney. They're doing, this is this, and that's where they stop. I like to diversify within my niche, which is I can use my voice for voiceovers. I can use my voice to train others in the voiceover industry. I can use my voice to MC, like I said. So it's generalizing, but it's within the same niche. I'm not now going to become a TikTok dancer. It's not that I cannot do it too. It's possible, but it doesn't aid to my specific niche. Now, if again we go to Hilda, chef knows how to cook, starts telling herself, what can I do with food? I can feed, I can have NGOs and have programs where we feed children. What else can I do? I can have a TV show about cooking. I can write cookbooks. I can put my recipes online. I can break a Guinness Book World Record. And so when you think of your niche, don't think your niche is restrictive. Instead, start to see the different possibilities that you can do within your niche. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's insightful, very insightful. It's like, when we have this idea of niching down to, it's important to also understand what it means to niche down. It's not just, I do this one thing, that's all. I can't do, even if it's something related to that same skill, I'm not going to do it because, it's not, then that would not mean I'm niching down. But it could also mean that you're niching down, and um I think even when it comes to niching down, there's also different ways to do that. So you can be a specialist by, okay, I do all of these things, but I only serve this target audience, like all of these things for this person or for this group of people, or I do this thing for anyone in this area, or I feel like there's many ways to do that, and it's not just I do this one thing, that's all, like nothing else. And yeah, evidence of that. If you're a voiceover artist, you think of everything that has to do with speaking. How many ways can I use this to provide value to people? And yeah, there's definitely people who are interested in all those different ways. So it's just about finding your audience and then knowing how you're going to serve them. So I resonate with that. And how I'm also curious as to the things that you've studied or are studying. Like, how do
Yes.
they feed into
Tie
your
in.
creative work? So are there things that you've learned that help you do your work better as a voiceover
Mhm.
artist? I see you studying what do you call sustainability
Mhm.
sustainability corporate sustainability. Yes, a
Yes.
PhD in corporate
Yes.
sustainability. So how has that helped you, say, run your business or make your business more sustainable? And do you think that
Yeah.
then there is a role that education? Well, I feel like let's start with that one first. So how does that feed into your work? Before I start going with more questions.
Yeah, that great question again, Dami. And I think this is what creatives needs to start thinking about is you want a degree that backs up your work. You want a degree that you can tie into your work in some way or the other. It helps. So with me, before I started studying, I always knew that I was going to start my own business. So I always knew that I was going to be a business owner before any of the voiceover things started. And so my first degree was in BCom law, which is, I think it's called commercial law in other countries. And that was because I never wanted somebody to tell me the laws of business. Because that's how you'll meet people who will, defraud you and scam you, etc., etc. And so I wanted to find out for myself, what are the laws of business? What are the corporate laws that I need to know before I open a business? Then my second degree was in communication management. And that was when I discovered my speaking skill and how I could make money with it. And I thought, instead of going, and this is from an MC perspective and a program director perspective, instead of going to a company and saying, let me be our MC, I have a nice voice. I'm going to you saying, let me be an MC. I've got a degree in communication management. I know how to structure a conversation. I know how to bring out the selling point. I know how to do brand display and brand management and PR and public relations. I will make your company look good just by hosting your event. And that's not just for my voice, that's for my degree as well. Then I did a master's degree in strategic business management. And now that was to play hand in hand with my business management that I wanted to start. So I wanted to understand strategies of how to, what's it called? How to expand into different countries, how to do cross continental business, how to build your business from scratch up, the different strategies involved. Then lastly, with the PhD in corporate sustainability, I saw the world moving drastically towards this whole sustainability approach of doing things. Everybody was jumping onto SDGs. Every company wanted to be aligned with the sustainable development goals and etc. etc. And I thought there are probably lots of companies that already exist, but they don't know how to become sustainable, right? Let's say you run an IT company. You feel like you're not doing anything with waste. You guys are working on laptops. So how could you possibly become sustainable? And so I started to this PhD so I could learn sustainability and how to pass on that knowledge. And I started it was it during COVID or just after COVID, where we were forced to work from home. And it was right there that I decided that Elevate Africa would be a virtual training platform so that we can train all across the continent without leaving home. And so that's what we've been doing. That's our way of being sustainable. And there's other things as well. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like this is a new perspective for me that I haven't really heard from a lot of people, a lot of creatives I listen to, except the ones who they're graphic designers and they studied graphic design, and so okay, that directly fits into your work, or you study theater arts and you're a poet, or you dance, or you do some. But it's interesting to see how you're like, I know that I'll need this skill, this skill, this skill, and this might be advantageous in future. And you just said, okay, for that reason, I'm going to study communications. I'm going to study corporate sustainability because I can see how these things feed into like my work. And there's also potential opportunities, for instance, with the corporate sustainability degree or PhD. And yeah, it's interesting to see how you've been able to pick, and I'm sure there's also some things that you've learned that I feel, okay, this one is not too relevant, but I will get this other skill from this degree,
Yeah.
and for that reason I'll go for it. So yeah, I think this is something that I'm learning from, and I think people who are listening to would also find that really insightful. Maybe when I want to do my degree, instead of me thinking I want to do graphic design or communications, maybe I might also think of corporate sustainability and feel like, okay, maybe this will help me run my business more sustainably, or make it
Exactly.
more
Exactly.
on brand, and things like that.
Also,
So
maybe this is a different channel that's very different to my skill that I can still branch off to. Because we live in an ever changing world, right? So that's to say that maybe within the next 5 years, voiceovers will be replaced with AI. I doubt it, but it's possibility. These days, you can replicate almost everyone's voice, right? And so if I have boxed myself so much that I'm a graphic designer, I've studied graphic design, I don't know brand, you don't know how to like build a brand, not just from the designs, but companies these days want to go to a one-stop shop for everything. They want to come to you, the graphic designer, and they want to get the brand from you. They want to get the brand design. They want to get the strategies from you, communication strategies. They want to know how this is going to boost their business visibility. They want to know all of that just from you so that they don't have to get you, the graphic designer, you, the communication specialist, you, the marketing manager. If they can get it from one place, it's beneficial. So start thinking around what you do, what can assist you in that. Yeah.
I see, and although I feel like there's also this reluctance, or I don't know, there's some kind of anger that creatives have or towards, I go to LinkedIn and I see someone complain about how they recently worked with someone, or they applied for a job, and as a social media manager, for instance, but then on your job description, they say you be the graphic designer, you be the this, you be the brand manager, you be the animator, you be the video editor. And I see a lot of complaints about that, but then it seems like you're open to the idea that you're open to potential opportunities like that, where they hire you for this one thing, but then you would also willing to offer other skills like that you have to them.
So, yes, only if you communicate with them that what they are asking you to do is more than just social media design. And then you explain it to them and you tell them that I want to cost more money. Because a lot of employers don't know. They don't know that there's a difference between a marketing manager and a communication specialist and a brand designer. Those are three separate roles. According to them, if I hire you, you're supposed to come and make my social media posts. You're supposed to be the one managing the website. Now you're doing website. Now you're coding, right? So it's important to
Mhm.
also explain to them and say, listen, here's what a social media specialist does. Lucky for you, I can also do brand awareness. However, that is separate to the role of a social media specialist. And I would need you to compensate me additionally for me to do this other role. Or alternatively, I won't be able to do both. I'll focus on this one and maybe you can hire someone else to do that. We need to start gaining confidence to provide employers with information. It's not just the one way. And I say that coming from someone who has looked for jobs a number of times. Take the courage. You'll stand out. You will stand out if you tell an employer that, yes, I'm applying for this job. I'm very excited about it. However, I just wanted to provide some insight. There is a difference between this and this. You will see. They'll say, huh? Somebody questioned us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really insightful, and I think although it depends on who it is that you are telling that to, I feel like some people might see it as a threat, and others would be like, oh yeah, this person actually knows what it is they are doing, and that might be impressive to them. So, but all the same, it's best that you call out those differences. I feel like you point out those differences so that they know that at least before you start working, they know that if they are giving you more work, they know that they're already giving you more work because you have mentioned that from the start. So at least they can acknowledge that. And if it's someone else who actually appreciates that, then they know that they need to hire someone else to handle another aspect of that. So yeah, that makes sense. And okay, next thing, it's so again back to the whole point of education. um, so how much of a role do you think that a formal education plays in the success of a creative entrepreneur? Is this something that you will encourage that people work towards, going to school, or I don't know, getting their education elsewhere, or how has that helped you, like, in general, to be a better entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur?
Yeah. Good question. So I always say that as a creative, you have to have certification from somewhere. Now, that somewhere depends on what your background is and what your current circumstances are. That somewhere doesn't always have to be a university degree. It can be an online certificate, it can be a technical certificate, but you have to have evidence that you know what you're doing. Not just by saying that you know what you're doing, you have to have something or some authority or some body or figure that has said this person has trained for this skill and they actually have this skill. Why? Because you need to think about the sustainability of your talent. Okay. I always think about football players and I say, being a football player is great. You make a lot of money on the onset, but as soon as that football age hits, there's very little else that you can do after that, especially if you're not, Ronaldo or Messi and you already have millions in the account. The moment you have an injury, you're out. And most of the times they don't study because they leave very early and they get into that career. And so it's always difficult to sort of assimilate back into society. And so if you think about the sustainability of your talent, you're going to be talented, yes, forever. However, what else can you do? For me, what else can I do apart from voiceover? When my voiceover work, like I was saying earlier on, when it becomes redundant, what else can I do? What else do I have to fall back on? Because if that was the only thing that I had and I didn't have any certification or anything, I'll sit. And then now that's when you find people trying to go back to school or trying to find something else to do that's not within your wheelhouse. So, as a creative, always have certification of some sort, because now I can say, okay, maybe I can't record voiceovers anymore, but I can assist in the designing or the programming of the AI to make it sound more human, or because I understand voice variation and tonality and I have a certificate that says I understand that, I can play that role. So education for me will always be a yes. It will always be a yes, but I understand that we live in a world where education looks different to different people. Everyone likes to point at Elon Musk and say, Elon Musk never went to university. Bill Gates, you are not Elon Musk. And also Bill Gates. Plus, there's like such a small cluster of those billionaires and those figures who make it without going through an education. And if you do real research, you'll see the backgrounds that they had. You'll see that Elon Musk comes from a family of diamond miners in South Africa. So, of course, I'm sorry, but when you've got diamond to back you up, so walk your own path, live your own journey, and remember that education will never fail you.
So, guys, walk your own path, lead your own journey, and remember that education will never fail. Yeah, I'm just reiterating, reiterating that. But yeah, yeah, that's an interesting perspective, and I think it's just also just in line with the way the world is evolving today. And I think what is at the forefront, just as you've mentioned, is AI. And you see, every day there's a new model of something doing something crazy that has never been done before. And yeah, you start to get worried. Should I be worried? Should I be, I'm fascinated, but I'm also worried. Will this eventually take my job?
Should we be
And
coding? Should we learn
yes,
how to code?
exactly. Should we? I've asked myself that question so many times. I'll go to YouTube, save a couple of videos to a playlist that I'm going to learn how to. I will not go back to it, but I don't know. I might eventually go back to that thing, but we never know. We never know. But yeah, it's like, even if the world is evolving, you just have to find a way you can still fit into that evolved world. If your skill happens to become redundant, then find something that will be relevant in future that you can still do, that you're still interested in doing. And if you can learn it now while the skill you have currently is still earning you money, then use that money to learn the thing. And if it's take a course, you don't have to go to school necessarily, because yeah, school might be expensive. It may not be realistic for you if you don't have, I don't know, some backing or something. Take a course, watch videos, listen to podcasts, just learn, because you never know where the world is going. ChatGPT was not here, I don't know, 3 years ago. Look at it now. Everybody is using it for, I don't know, brainstorming. Some people are using it for academic work. I don't support that. So I also
Everything.
used it at some point, for brainstorming too. But yeah, like it can aid your work, and some of the things you might be doing might be redundant, but then it cannot replace you completely. You still have
That's
your
right.
mind, you still have yourself.
Yeah.
So look for the things that cannot be replaced and then like work on that. So yeah, I agree. I agree with that as well. And I think now just moving on to your business, Elevate Africa. So I follow you online, and I've seen a lot of your students and what they are doing. They're doing amazing work, and it's like you might be watching. I don't know, your child might be watching something on Disney like right now, and you don't know that it's one of our students who has given, or even she herself who voiced over that character that that, and I think that's just amazing to see. And yeah, like when it comes to Elevate Africa, how has it been running that business? What were your expectations at the beginning? What were versus reality today, and also what are the things that you've learned along the way, the business lessons? What are the mistakes you've made that you can share with our audience, so that they also just learn from that, and just lessons you've learned in general throughout your journey?
Yeah, Dami. See, the thing with entrepreneurship is you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you know, or something along those lines. And what I'm saying is, you figure out a lot of things on the job. You can read as many entrepreneurship books, as many strategy books, as many courses as you can, and those help. Those are not useless. Those definitely help. But it's once you're inside the business itself that you will start to see certain things. And one of the biggest lessons for me is business is not just demand and supply. A lot of the times, our minds, we will think that people demand rice. Therefore,
Mm-hmm.
I will sell rice. It makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But business is so much more than that, because you're selling rice. Okay, let's not go with rice. Let's go with lunch.
Mm-hmm.
You go to business, you see that the people, whenever there's lunchtime, people are always running around trying to find where they can get food. And you say, the demand is there. I'm going to supply food. All right. You start supplying food. You've got price inflections. You've got people coming to say that they don't eat rice because they don't eat starch. Do you have other things that you offer? Now you need to do that. Then you've got those who don't like the packaging that you're putting the food in, and you need to put it inside a package that they can. Then it needs to be microwavable as well. And then some people like some flavor, some. All I'm saying is, with Elevate Africa, when we started, I would always say that the demand is much greater than the supply. How many people are there currently in the African continent? Over a billion, right?
Yeah.
And I used to always say that that is our client base. When people would ask, who is your client base? How many people? Sorry, I must check. Let me get my statistics right. Yeah, 1.2 billion. That's what I thought. And people will ask me like, Alma, who's your client base for Elevate Africa? I would always say 1.2 billion people. And they're like, that's too big for a client base. Nah. And I say no, because I say every single person needs to know how to communicate. Every single job, every vocation, whether you are an engineer, an accountant, a teacher, a lawyer, an IT specialist, you need to know how to speak for people to trust and believe in your ideas and your competencies. So the demand is there. The supply we have. Where is the business? First couple of months, I'm like, I thought this thing would pick up like crazy. I thought everybody would be saying, come and train us, come and train us. I thought we do not even have enough trainers to go out and train. But then you realize there's so much more to business than demand and supply. People might not even know. And the first thing we did in the first year was just to inform and educate. We didn't train. Inform and educate people that they need the skill. You can't assume people know that they need a skill that they have never had before. Most managers, my master's degree focused on how much money is lost because CEOs don't know how to communicate a strategy. Millions. Everyone assumes that the CEO is in a position where they can communicate, so nobody questions them. And they don't go to communication training or anything. Whatever they say is what happens. But then not every CEO is a good communicator. And so strategy is communicated from the top. By the time it gets down to employees, it's lost. It's
Mm-hmm.
lost. They don't know what to do. And millions were lost, according to my study. The same goes for communication. Not everybody knows that they need to know how to speak. Some people don't even know what that looks like. And so there's business, there's realizing that, okay, before we even start selling this product, people need to know that they need this product. Can you believe it? People need to know that they need it because they don't know that they need it. Then comes the marketing and the marketing channels, and realizing that when you market on TikTok, you get a very different client base from when you market on Instagram, which is a very different client base to when you market on LinkedIn. Understanding what, yes, you said you wanted to train everyone, but really, really, who can afford your services? It's not high school students. I love to train high school students, but they can't afford my services. So who can afford my services? Business people, people who are in the working class, people who are working in different positions, and they think, they know that they need the communication. Then we can say we have different community service initiatives where we go into high school and we provide training for free. All of that I have learned in the business, and I'm still learning. So I'd like to say to everyone, don't despise small beginnings. Don't be discouraged by your first year not making anything, your second year not making anything, your third year not making anything. I read in a book, and I would like to say what you said. I'm not a reader. I rather watch TED Talks. But I read in a book once that it takes a successful business 5 years to see a profit. And I remember when I read that, and I was like, please, oh, we are not them. We're different. And even though we've made a little bit of money, it will take this business 5 years at least to have some sort of firm foundation that it is replicable and sustainable in future. There's nothing more heartbreaking than starting a business that goes phew in the first year and then drops down. Everything that is worth it. Oh, I just got this great analogy. All powerful structures are built in a triangle shape. I do not do a lot of physics, but I know that a strong structure has to be built in a triangle. And that means that the base time has to be longer for you to get to a higher peak. So it is going to take you longer for you to be able to reach there. If your business grows like that, it is going to be unstable, right? So do not despise the foundational phase of building to get to that top. Push quotes me. That was
Oh,
good analogy.
bars, 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 bars. You're just displaying some of the
Yeah.
communication skills here. So, but yeah, I mean that's that's definitely really, really insightful. And it's first of all, what I could pick from that is sometimes you have to. Sometimes people don't know what they want. You have to show them that they want it, or it's like they don't think they need it. They don't think they need it, but you have to come there and educate them. And I was recently talking to another creative in the previous podcast recording, also said the same thing, especially when you're in a space that's not conventionally known or recognized in your country or your region, and you have to be the one to come and tell them, yeah, you think you communicate well enough, but I can show you how to communicate even better, and this can also lead to you getting this
That's not
opportunity, this opportunity, this opportunity, and you didn't know that you would have access
exactly.
to
Yeah.
these kinds of opportunities. So it's first of all, sometimes you have to communicate, but then also finding an audience that can pay for the value that you're offering. So it's not just communicating the value, because a lot of people like art, but not everybody will buy art because they cannot afford it, and they cannot pick art
Mm-hmm.
over buying rice to eat in the house. you know, they'll take what is more important to them. But then there are people who have, some of these other basic needs met, and they have money to spare for more needs and wants. And sometimes these are the people that you want to target, people who are interested in what you do, but they can also afford it.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking of something there's this thing in economics when I was in high school. I mean, you've probably learned a lot more. You've learned a lot more about this. So that's why I'm going back to high school, because I don't have this experience from my university. But yeah, it was about the definition for demand, I think. So they always said people who are willing and able to, like, so not just willing, it's not just about
Wow.
them being willing, but they also need to be able to
Yeah.
buy what you are supplying. So it just reminded me of that,
Mm,
willing and able.
mm,
I'm like, why did they have to always say willing
mm.
and able? Why can't you just say
Yeah.
willing or able? But it makes sense now why you could say both, why you had to say both of them. So, and I remember because I had to
Yeah.
cram that phrase when I was writing it in my for my
Willing
exams
and
and all.
able.
So yeah, and I think that just applies perfectly into this scenario. So, and thank you for the bars too. Like, we are going to quote that. We are going to cut that when we are marketing this episode, and that will be the first place they will see. They will see. So yeah. So now I think moving a little away from your business now, from Elevate Africa, there's also the personal side of things where you take on gigs and take on gigs, voiceover gigs, and also MCing work as well. So how do you say that experience has also been for you so far when you started and where you are today? How do you get your, should I say, clients? I can call them, they are clients,
Yeah,
I
they're
guess.
clients. Yeah, they're
So how do
clients.
you get your clients? How have you been able to build your brand to be someone that's, people want to have as an MC, and but also, as a voiceover artist, how do you get work and all of that? How do you price your work? Just tell us about your experience as a, so that part now, it's also, you're also a creative entrepreneur, but then you are the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell us
As
about
I
you
sell
being a
myself.
business.
So great questions again. I always like to start with don't despise small beginnings. Because even when I started, I started at a time where I would be charging. The thing is, what was the? I'm going to say 200. I don't know the dollar equivalent. Let me see, like $10 maybe. I was charging very little, basically almost 1% what I'm getting right now. When I started recording voiceover, I was doing that because I was trying to build a client base. Because in the voice, let me start with the voiceover industry. The voiceover industry is about building a client base so that you can have repeat clients. That's how I train my artists. Once you work with a company, that company is going to need advertising for the rest of the year. They're going to need announcements to be made for the rest of the year. They're going to need a voiceover who does the call number. I don't know how it's like with you guys, but you know how sometimes when you call MTN or Vodacom and it says, if you would like to speak to someone, press 1. If you would like to find out more, press 2. Things like that. Things like that. Every single business is going to
I
need.
feel like I'm on a phone call right now.
So things like that are needed by every single business. And so if you can create or if you can find a customer base and you can solidify your customer base, then you can have repeat clients. So at first, it was about building a client base at all costs. If that means I'm charging very little, I'm charging very little. If it means I'm giving you a free sample so that the next time I'll charge you money, I'm going to do that as well. I wasn't selling them time, the amount of time that I put into it. I was selling them value. This is how much value my voice can add to your business. Instead of constantly having your secretary picking up the phone to say, if you would like to do this, then please press this number. You have called the wrong number. Have an automated voice that does that for you. Makes the system so much easier so that by the time it's coming to your call lines, you already have this person's details. It tells them, please fill out your phone number. Please fill out your ID number. By the time you're answering the call, you know the name, you know the person's number, you know who it is, and you can manage that request. So I always say, let me sell value to you. The same with MCing. Dami, there are hundreds of MCs. There are thousands of us. What makes me stand out? I sell you value. I'm not just here to MC your event with the program that you give me. I always ask them, what does your company do? A lot of the times, MCs are not interested in that. You give them a program, they take the program, they do the program from beginning to end, and they leave. I want to know, what does your company do? What are your greatest strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your selling points? What are your targets like? What do you want to get out of this event? Because it might just be an awards evening, but you might still be looking for sponsorship. So I need to frame it in such a way that I highlight your business so much that we're not even saying, please sponsor us. After the event, people are asking, how can we assist? How can we become a part of this? How can we lend our time and our energy into this? Um, So that's how I set myself separate as the MC. Something that I'm also becoming very conscious of is my voice is my product, like you said. In order for you to buy my product, you have to hear my voice, Abby. I can't tell you I'm a good MC. You have to see that I'm a good MC. All right. So I was saying that as an MC, my jobs come from those who listen to me, because you have to hear my voice in order to know that I can MC. You have to see me MC, and so I've become very intentional that once I'm done emceeing an event, what people don't know about me is I'm an introvert. So Dami, I
Mm?
know you are going to say, "Hey, I'm an introvert."
Ah.
I promise you. I can speak in front of an audience of hundreds of thousands of people. But when it comes to one on one, or when it comes to integrating with like small crowds, I struggle with small crowds because I always feel like if you ask me about myself and I tell you about myself, I feel like I'm bragging, and I'm not trying to, but I always find that a little bit awkward having to, which is my own personal thing that I'll deal with. But what I'm saying is normally I would finish hosting an event and I would run off because the client was my focus. I'll go to the client, ask them, was the event great? Did I deliver on all of your expectations? Were you happy with it? Wonderful. And then I would go home, forgetting that every person in that room is a future client just waiting. They have seen me MC. I don't even need to sell myself. They have seen what I can do. All they need is a call to remind them that, hi, for your next corporate event, if you're looking for an MC, here I am. So I've become more intentional about staying behind, about interacting with the people, and about getting numbers and actually phoning or actually emailing them. Just to remind them that, hi, we met on this day. I MC'd this event. It was great to have you there. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're looking for an MC for your next corporate event, let me know.
Oh, well, yes. First of all, I would not have thought of you as to be an introvert. But then I'm also trying to recall when we did meet in person to see if what you are saying. If I saw evidence that day, and I think I did see that. I did see that. So yeah. Yes, you're right. But yeah, I agree that it's all just about um value, showing the value that you offer or that you can offer to them, and making them value the value too. Like it's like I'm telling you why you should want this, but you also need to want this. Like you also and that's
Yeah.
the whole part where I feel like the communication skill
Mm,
comes in handy, like also being able to communicate
exactly.
your value as well. That's something that I feel like a lot of creatives, except it's weird that I feel like for most creative work, you do things that communicate something, but it doesn't always mean that you can communicate that thing with your like vocally as well. Because if you're an artist, most of the time your art is supposed to pass a message. You're communicating something. If you're a visual artist, for instance, if you're a designer, if
Yeah.
you're I don't know, most of what you do, you're creating, and a
Yeah.
lot of times you're creating to communicate something. But then if you are not a performing artist, then it might be harder for you to communicate that thing or the value of that thing vocally to someone. Most of us are like shy and or also introverts. They don't usually want to talk if they don't have to. And we have this feeling that the work will communicate for itself. And sometimes it's not always like that. Sometimes you have to tell people why they should like your work. Someone might see something abstract that you work on if you're a painter, and the person is, so why should I value why should I value this thing? But then if you come and tell the story behind how you made the work or what inspired it, then it might just inch them a little closer to actually buying your work or something. So yeah, it's communicating of the value is very, very important, and knowing how to communicate as well. So yeah, I really find that insightful. And yeah, when it comes to doing running your business, running yourself as a business, but then also running Elevate Africa, have there been any particular concepts or systems you've set in place or tools that you use that help you to run your business more efficiently, that help you to take gigs more efficiently without, you know, burning out all the time or something, having so many things to do at the same time? And again, I know I've asked this question about time management earlier on, But then also just like, how do you handle your clients? How do you handle multiple clients at the same time? And how do you make things run efficiently? Are there things that you use, lessons you've learned, or that you can also educate us about?
Mm. I'm going to try and remember all of those questions, Dami. If I forget, you remind me of the one that I've forgotten, right? But let me
I feel
start
like
by...
I have an issue with asking too many questions at the same time. I reduce it. I reduce it. My bad.
It's all good. Don't worry. But I wanted to, just before we leave the point that we were saying previously, instead of letting your work speak for you, speak for your work. This thing that we've been told, let your work speak for you. Why will you let your work speak for you when you have a mouth and you can speak for your work? So that's just one thing that I wanted to say. Then, now let's get to the next thing. Every company, this is my firm belief based on my small expertise that I have, every company or every brand or every product needs a face. It needs some sort of a face behind it. And why I say this is, and as I'm thinking now, I'm thinking of a couple of businesses that don't have faces. But anyways, regardless, when you think of Facebook, you think of the face. When you think of Twitter, or now X, you think of Elon Musk. When you think of America as a country, back then, you used to think Barack Obama. You couldn't separate the two of them, right? It wasn't America exists without Barack. It was America and Barack exist as a unit, right? And so just taking that as an example, I think one of the big mistakes that we make is we try to create a business that is separate of human qualities. You know, the business is there by itself. I am the person who runs the business. I'm far away from it. I don't want my face to be there. I don't want anybody to know that it's me. And that removes a personality from your business. So at first, I wanted to say Elevate Africa is a complete separate entity from Elma Akob. But Elevate Africa is my company. I can't run away from it. What I do reflects on the company. How the company does reflects on me. My speaking ability is what sells the company, because people hear me speaking and they say, I want to speak like that. And so they go to my company. I cannot separate the two. And so when you guys, when you're building your brands and you're thinking to yourself, my own personal social media is very different to my company's social media. There are two different entities and nobody will ever see them as the same. Unfortunately, sorry. But what we see about you is what we assume about your company. How you behave as a human being is how we think your company will be towards us. Are you diligent? Are you kind? Are you timely? Are you organized? Are you someone who posts content that is inspiring? Or do you bully people on social media, but because it's your own personal one, you think it's not going to affect your business? Your qualities are mirrored by your company. So be very aware of what you are doing on your socials, because people are judging your actions and putting that in place with your company. So that's the first one. Managing my brand and managing the company's brand, and understanding that even though they are separate entities, they are the same. They are the same person. Separate entities, same person. Other things when it comes to engaging with clients, there is no good and there is no, okay, maybe they're bad clients. There is no good and bad client, right? And what I mean by that is, don't start measuring your clients according to the amount of money they give you. Learn that now. We have a tendency of, oh, my favorite clients, my best client. When somebody comes and spends so much money on your company, and you lift them above any other client that you've had, and then you ignore your smaller clients and you say, this one's I'm even giving you a discount, and you don't speak to them the same way you do. Start right now to treat your clients on equal standing, because you never know. All right, so as I was saying, you have this way that we treat different clients, but what I've noticed is I will interact with someone on social media on a personal basis, and then later find out when I get to a job that, hey, it was this girl who suggested you for this gig, and I'm like, this person did not give me any money. They did not add any monetary value to me, but just by virtue of our interaction and the respect that I gave them, treating them as though they were my favorite client, they went into a room that I was not even a part of, into a discussion that I was not even there, and fought for me to be the MC for that event. And so treat your clients with a level of respect that mirrors you as a person and mirrors your business. You cannot separate the two. So I've spoken about your brand versus your company's brand. I've spoken about communications and how to communicate with your clients. systems in place. Use AI to your advantage. It's something that I'm learning late, but it's something that we're definitely doing as a business. Find those automated messages. Just because we're human beings, we're consumers of fast information. If I come to your website and I send a query and you take 1 week to get back to me, I've moved on. I'm not interested anymore. Regardless of what you tell me, I've moved on. So find systems that can assist you with automated answers. When people come and ask, how much is this? You've got something that automatically responds. They don't have to wait for you to finish work and come back. Use those tools to your advantage. Yeah.
I see. That's a lot of insight, and I'm even surprised to see, because I remember I asked you some questions. I'm like, even me who asked the questions, I'm surprised that you still had everything in your head. I didn't have to ask
Yeah,
you. So
exactly.
yeah, even me who asked this question, I was like, oh, I asked that one too. But yeah, but yes, that's really really insightful, and the whole thing of personal brand versus company brand, it's very important. I also recently spoke to someone about that, and they also emphasized that point. So it's like a lot of people want to see faces, and the world is becoming, especially on I mean social media, it's becoming more um driven by, a lot of people now, they had their businesses just posting their work, but now you're starting to see a lot of talking heads. Someone carries a mic, like me now, I've carried a mic in front of me, carries a mic, and like, starts to talk starts to talk about their work to their audience, and like the fact that they can see that there's somebody behind this. It's not just a logo. It makes you feel more okay. There's somebody that I can pinpoint if I see there's something wrong and I actually want to comment on something. I want a correction to be like, I can associate this skill to this person or this service to this person. And it just makes you trust the business more. And I'm also learning from that, because I'm one of those people who like will almost never post like you do. So I've met someone who knew my work online and was telling me about my work, but they didn't know I was the one
It
that
was
did
you.
it. And and I'm like, yes,
Ah,
it's that Dami. Yes, I am the Dami. It's not another Dami. They're like, they also know another Dami who does this. I'm like, no, it's me. And then they showed me my
it's
own
me.
Instagram account. So I feel like that's something I also need to learn from. I've historically been uncomfortable with like just putting myself out there, even if it's not a talking head. Like, just put your picture, let someone know that is this person that
Hmm.
works here. Or when you have your own personal
Yeah.
account, you market your business account as well, so people
Business.
can link both of
Yeah.
you together, both of those things together. So yeah, I really agree with that. And yeah, using AI outsourcing, it's kind of like you're outsourcing, but you're not outsourcing to a person, you're outsourcing to AI. And delegation is always a good thing if you can afford to do it. So yeah, definitely. And AI is free. It's probably more economical than outsourcing. Again,
Yeah.
it's two-sided, because you're outsourcing to AI,
Sure.
but then someone else is losing their potential potential job. But it's what you can afford, you will
But
use. So
you
yeah.
might you might need somebody to come set it up for you, which is what I'm doing. We're getting
Mm-hmm.
automated
Mm-hmm.
messages, but I don't know how to set them up myself. So I'm paying
True.
for external people. So we're still trying, we're still trying.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah. Okay. So thanks for that. So now there's just a few more questions. And when you look at your journey so far as a creative entrepreneur, can you, apart from what you've already mentioned, can you just also give people who might be listening, who are aspiring to become creative entrepreneurs as well, people who might be starting from scratch, or people who might be moving from a 9 to 5 business to start their own thing, or even running their own things on the side as well? Can you share two pieces of advice that you feel like would have helped you when you just started as well, apart from what you've already mentioned already?
Definitely. The first one would be, we were not created to exist as islands, right? And I say that because as creatives, there's so much, I don't want to call it drama, but there's always so much drama that is related to or attached to creatives, that we don't like to work with people, right? You want to do your own thing by yourself because somebody else does not understand or they don't see the value in what you're doing. And so you just decide that I'm doing it by myself. I don't need anyone else, etc. We were not created to live as islands. We were created to live in community. And so don't get to a place where you are limiting the growth of your business because you are not willing to ask for help. And that's something that I had to learn. Ask for help. You don't know everything. Sorry to say, you don't know everything. You might have a brilliant voice like I do. I know nothing about podcasts. Me, nothing. I don't know what platforms to put them on. I don't know how to run a podcast. I don't know how to do an intro video, a closing video. I have a nice voice. That's what I bring to the table. Somebody else can be a designer and they want to design a logo for you. Somebody else might tell you that, listen, your podcast sounds nice, but you need to start inserting little additional things like laughs or clapping in the background, whatever the case needs to be. Don't box yourself up into this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it. Ask for feedback. Ask people to listen to your podcast, to tell you what it's missing. Ask for assistance. Find a winning team. If it's a business that you're doing, find a winning team who buys into your idea as much as you do, because then you won't have to force them to work. My team at Elevate, I don't have to force them to work. They get up and they're just like, what can we do about speaking? How can we get the word out there? So that's the really important one. Ask for help and also be willing to give help, because when people come asking you for help, be willing to give it as well. If someone comes and tells you that, look, how did you manage to get your podcast onto YouTube? You don't have to give them a 20-minute, breakdown of what they needed to do. You can either send them a link or you can send them a quick voice note that says, this is the platform to use, but let's help each other. Let's really try and help each other. And then the second one would be your first output should be as excellent as you want it to be. Now, what I mean by that, I haven't said it really nicely, but start great. From the moment you start at a high standard. We have this tendency of telling ourselves that, no, it's because I'm just starting. So, it does not matter really. When I get a ring light, then I'll be able to. When I get a microphone, then I'll be able to. When I improve to iPhone 14, then I'll be able to. No, with the resources that you have, start excellent. I really, really applaud those content creators that will be standing in the back of their yard or in the back of their farm and they've set up their phone and they're doing their content and they're moving forward because they know that they need to. That's what they want to do. So stop making the excuses. Stop making the excuses of, I need to have that new thing that people are doing is they use that light that gives different colors, Abby. Then they change the mood. Now you've got a green, whatever, you've got a purple, whatever, and stuff like that. Start with what you have. If you have a Nokia i10, go and start your content. Go and start doing something and make sure that you're starting it excellently and let your people know that this is what I'm doing. My sound quality might not be as good as Dami's because Dami has invested in a 50K recorder, but this is my sound. And until I get there, I'm going to give you content with this sound. So yeah, that's my two pieces of advice. Start excellent and don't be an island.
Very insightful, and yes, I'm praying for that 50K recorder. If you know where I
Receive
can
it,
find
Dami.
it for free, I will go and look. But yeah, that's really insightful, and I think now I want to. We ask this to every creative who comes on the podcast, so it's a way of trying to get to know who the next creative might be who would also feature here as well. So can you tell us, how do I put it? Can you tell us one other creative or creative entrepreneur that you look up to or that you like, that you would also want to see featured as a guest on this podcast, sharing their story and business advice as well? Just one.
I'm thinking of two. I cannot choose. I'm going to tell you both.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Two is okay.
Or two. So one of them is one that I look up to, and then the other one is one that I think would share very interesting perspectives as well. So who I look up to, and this is in the communications field, is Nozipo Shabalala. That's her surname, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let me not come and say a wrong name. Or she is a communications. She is a communication strategist, and she just Nozipo Shabalala, and she hosts governmental discussions, UN high level AU conversations, and she is the one who paved the way for speaking being a source of income in itself without anything else added to it. So she is just incredible in everything she does. Then the other person that I think would be interesting for you to feature, I call him my little brother, but his name is Nobu Dikachi. He's also based in South Africa, born from Nigeria, just finished his engineering degree, but is getting into and has been. He's involved in music, he's involved in acting, and he's involved in the modeling industry as well. And it's, again, very rare to see an engineer doing all of those different things. So it would be interesting to hear his perspectives. He's younger than me as well, how he's been able to balance engineering. See, I always say engineering is like 3 of my degrees, Sha. The amount of stress that I see engineers go through is practically the same. But he's used social media, and he comes from a musical background, like I said, whereas I'm comms. He's musical and he's acting, so he'll have different perspectives to offer in that regard. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, noted. Paint. We'll go and look for them. We'll search for them. We'll search for them. Now we'll say Elma requested for you to be guests on this podcast, so you respond to our request.
Finish.
Well, yeah, thank you for recommending. And for people who might be listening to, you can look them up online. We'll get their particular handles or names, and then also just maybe put them in the show notes as well. So thank you for recommending. And now we're going to just few short fun questions, nothing too serious anymore. We've left that segment aside. So as we are rounding up the episode, I'd like to ask some fun questions. You can breathe more now. All the bars you've dropped, I know it
Thank
takes
you, sir.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot.
It's too much sense. It's too much.
Well, yeah. So first thing, if money wasn't an issue, and I think this is a question you probably know the end. If money wasn't an issue and you had all the money you want in the world, so what path would you want to go on, and what would you do? Would you still be doing education? Would you still be doing, voiceovers? So what would you have? What path would you want to go on?
Dami, I've heard this question be asked many times, but no one has actually asked me. I always thought myself that, if they ask you this question, be a good Christian child and say that you give it to the poor. But instead of giving a man a fish, I'd rather teach him how to fish. So if money was not an issue, will I finish this PhD? Because my father might listen to this podcast. Yes, I'll finish my PhD. If money was not an issue, I would invest in networks. There is a certain network that money gives you access to that a lot of us don't have. And I say networks because once you have networks, you can have your own influence. I don't think I want to be able to sustain. I always use this word sustain, but I want to make some money sustainably. Yes, God, give me money now and I'll go and spend it, live my best life, go to Canada, go and travel. I love traveling. Go travel within the African continent. The fact that I've not been to Zanzibar and Ghana is paining me. The fact that Nigeria is my neighbor and I've not entered inside Enugu, it's paining me. So travel would be great. But I'd like to invest in the networks that will be able to get me that amount of money sustainably.
I see. It's like when for Christians that read Bible, when God asked Solomon, what would you want? He said wisdom. That's the kind of I was expecting to hear something. I was expecting to hear some other.
That's
I don't know, but yeah, the what you talking now wisdom. Now wisdom.
Thank you, sir.
But yeah. All right, and yeah, final fun question. Well, it's more like I'm going to ask you to do something. Don't worry, I'm not going to say you should stand on the table or anything. Can you give us a little I mean, you've already been dropping it. All those accent, all those switches you've been going. Is an
Ah,
example. But can you give us, a snippet of your voiceover superpowers from maybe some other voiceover you've done before? Something like just drop something. Market thyself.
most certainly. Most certainly. In fact, Dami, as you're talking, I'm going to go look at your email about the Creative Africa
Hey, they are pitching
because
also. Oh, how much per second?
I would love to instead of do something, I would love to do a voiceover for the Creative Africa.
Oh, wow.
Um, so I'm trying to see. Let me go to you guys' website. Just a quick something, just a quick thing. Yeah, get to know
Yeah,
us.
yes, so
But wait,
that
let's
quick
let the
thing,
website
we will save it, but no, we won't go and be using it everywhere.
I'm not gonna hear it on TV. All right. It's about to open. Here we
All right.
go. All right. So the who I'm gonna give you a who are we. So voiceovers, I do like you said, I can do just for the fun ones that are out there already. The Disney's, if you watch Disney Junior, like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Bluey. If you tune in, you'll probably hear the narrator. I'm the narrator. So I'm the one who says, it's Mickey's birthday today, and we're going on an
Wow.
adventure. Something like that for Mickey's voice. I've done the one where it's the at the end of the tone, dial one. If you would like to contact this, dial two. Um, those are the ones that are a bit popular. Now let me do Look Creative Africa. All right.
Okay.
Lee Creative Africa is on a mission to educate and equip young African creatives with the business knowledge they need to become successful and thriving creative entrepreneurs.
Hey,
Bum.
hey, it's like
Hey,
it's like even me, sef, the business is new to me. Yeah, I'm interested. Please tell
it
me
makes
more.
sense. I'm hearing you for the first time.
Wow, wow. Like it's so fascinating seeing like voice. Like I remember seeing first of all, so we are going to save that clip, but don't worry, we won't use it. Well, we'll use it to market this episode to and market the podcast.
Use it,
But it's
oh,
like
use it.
there was this I don't know, there's this lady who I think I saw it on your page for Elevate Africa, the lady who voiced most of the Nickelodeon cartoon characters. I don't remember what her name is, yeah, but
Yeah,
she voiced
yeah.
because I watch a lot of
Bunny.
cartoons, a lot of
Bunny
cartoons.
Mamecha. Yeah.
Exact. Yeah. So I
Oh,
watch a
yes,
lot
yes,
of
yes. That white
cartoons.
lady.
So
No, no, no. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
she voiced what's his name from
Sorry.
Fairly Odd Parents, the main what's Timmy,
Yes.
and a lot of others. I'm like, so is this
Yeah.
same
Her
person?
name is,
Hmm.
it's Nancy. Nancy
Nancy.
Cartwright.
Nancy
Yes.
Cartwright. Yeah, and I was even surprised that because I watched Ben 10, and it's like Ben 10 is all the boys, and it's even a lady who voiced Ben 10. It's a lady who voiced Timmy, like
Ben is a woman. Ben
That
is,
is that's super. Like it was just fascinating. I
yeah.
watched the video over and over and over. I'm like, wow, this same person did all of this. But yeah, and yeah, thanks for that. For you pitched our own thing to us, and yeah, I think I want your own version of Lucrative Africa, but but yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. But so yeah, we've come to the end of the episode. Elma, thank you so much
Aw.
for joining us, for sharing your experiences and all the insights, business tips, and the voices too. The different voice. I've heard like 4 or 5 different voices now. So yeah.
Throughout this episode, Abby. Hey.
If you are watching Disney, or if you watch, if your children or your younger siblings watch Disney, just watch out. You never know, you might be listening to her voiceover. If they're watching Mickey Mouse, just put your ear down, remember what you heard today. So yeah. So Elma, where can our audience find you and your work and Elevate Africa online?
Great question. So on Instagram, it is just Elma Akob, and you said it correctly. Well done, sir. You still have your West African card. Elma.Akob on LinkedIn, Elma Akob, Facebook, which I've not used in years, but you can still go and follow me there, Elma Akob. Then the company is Elevate Africa Academy on the website, on social media, and on LinkedIn as well. Interesting thing is only after I don't want to say I came up with the company name. I prayed about the company name. Only afterwards did I realize that the initials for my company are exactly the same as my own initials. So company is Elevate Africa Academy, which is EAA. And my name is Elma Akob Asisa, which is EAA as well.
Wow.
So, hey.
Actually, that's an interesting, very interesting coincidence. I would never have thought of that. Well, yeah, so it's by divine order then.
It's by divine order, shout out with choice.
So yeah, thank you so much again for being on the show. Please, whoever is listening, follow her online, see her work, look at the academy. They are doing a lot of good work. And we'll also put in the details in the show notes as well, just in case you didn't pick that from here. So yeah, thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope that you found it insightful. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening on any of your other favorite podcasting platforms, please don't forget to subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and we'll see you again on our next episode. Have a good rest of the day, good night, and yeah, see you.
Bye.